Tesla's production hell is now over. They can produce the cars. I just don't think the demand is there, especially with a wave of competition coming in. Now, this is the beginning of the end for Tesla.
In this video, Tesla stock, well, basically every stock gets absolutely crushed in a brutal tsunami of red. A long-term Tesla short seller admits he wants to buy a Tesla. Plus, I explore the bell curve and debunk the Tesla bear thesis point by point. So, let's get into the video. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. So first up, if your favorite color is red, it is your lucky day. We're now looking at Rivian stock getting absolutely smoked, down over 10%. Not surprised, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but if this continues, well, I'm not going to be shocked. Just a little bit of context here, after peaking at at $172 per share not too long ago, Rivian down from that peak by 75%. Amazon stock also getting destroyed, down almost 6% for the day, over $150 per share. Government Motors down over 6% for the day. You did it, Mary, you led. And it matters. Press F in the chat for Ford, also getting smoked, down over 5% for the day. Google down almost 4.20%. And at long last, Tesla down a mere 4.02%. Tesla stock after hours now below $800 per share. Let me know in the comments below if you have been or plan to buy the dip. Now, why did I run through the stock prices today? Just to explain what's happening here, which is, of course, irrational panic. Emotions are driving the decisions of investors at this point in time. Stocks are broadly getting destroyed in approximately the same proportions. This doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. As I pointed out, between March, April, and May of 2020, amid peak fear in the stock market relating to the plague that was going to kill every single person on Earth, no question, absolutely dead, I pointed out the same thing had happened. Widespread chaos and panic, stocks crushed across the board. A specific example, Tesla stock is down more than the average airline stock is down. Does this make sense? No. And of course this turned out to be correct. Well, here we find ourselves in a similar situation. People are extremely fearful and there's widespread panic within the stock market. Stocks are all getting hammered. Some of them should be going the opposite direction, in my opinion. Let's see what happens. Ask yourself for a moment, why would a stock like Tesla be getting destroyed when what's happening at this point in time over the medium to long term is extremely helpful to Tesla's mission? Countries are realizing it is an urgent matter of national security to become energy independent. This is going to massively drive up demand for battery and solar, and of course we have gasoline prices temporarily heading to the fucking moon, which is going to cause a lot of consumers to think, hang on a minute, you don't put gasoline in an electric vehicle. I wonder how much those cost to own. Next minute they do the homework. Oh, I'll be better off buying an EV. Might buy one. Let me know in the comments below if you personally think it makes sense for Tesla stock to be getting crushed about the same as the broader stock market. And now it's time to hear from a long-term Tesla short seller who, in my opinion, isn't a complete and utter moron, which separates him from many of the Tesla short sellers out there. First, let me set the scene by playing a really quick clip from about 3 years ago to see what Whitney Tilson was saying about Tesla stock back at around, I don't know, $50 to $60 per share.
So you got some company now in terms of people who are short this stock.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, how long do you hang on? I mean, how low do you think the stock ends up going, and how does this all play out?
Yeah, well, in my email on March 4th, I had actually been telling all my short-selling friends it was a bad short for a couple of years. You just didn't want to get in the way of a very open-ended growth story.
Yeah.
But then the early indications, this big Q1 miss was not a surprise to anyone who was really doing the work. The evidence was all there. And so I reversed my position and I said, it's now, this is the beginning of the end for Tesla about a month ago. And I predicted a $100 stock price by the end of this year, and that's a prediction I'm sticking to.
So is it early at all, Whitney, to say that this is the beginning of the end, because it's been such a growth story, even with all the problems? And that has been the biggest theme with Tesla. Every bad thing that happens, we missed production this month, and Musk is in contention with the SEC over his tweets. My God, can't he stop tweeting? And yet, despite all this, the big believers in Tesla, almost more so than any of the other tech companies we cover, are just unfazed. I mean, they
Yes.
just worship at the altar of Musk and Tesla. And I would add that those who do buy the cars, man, I just find consistently, once you buy it and you've driven it, they love it. They're so
Yes.
happy. So, there is a sort of still a bull case.
Yeah,
So what do you say to that?
and that's why I told all my short selling friends, you don't want to short an open-ended situation on the fundamentals. It's been a huge revenue growth story for sure, but also you don't want to short a cult stock
Right.
where the bulls will just buy it at any price and you can get your face ripped off. So the only time you can short stories like that is when the fundamentals start to deteriorate, and that sort of tears the scales off the eyes of the disciples who believe in something I believe in as well, the future of electric vehicles. And Tesla has been a pioneer, and I really credit the company for forcing every car company in the world to invest billions, but they've almost done too good a job. I think there's a wave of competition coming in. You can already see it happening in Europe, where the Audi and the Jaguar cars, for example, are now outselling Tesla's, not the Model 3 yet, because they're just starting to deliver a big backlog there, but the Model S and the Model X are losing big time to the European manufacturers. So I think that's going to be the story the rest of this year. Tesla's production hell is now over. They can produce the cars. I just don't think the demand is there, especially with a wave of competition coming in.
But is there the risk here? There was a lot of good news. It was very, very bullish. It was exuberant. It seems like the kind of stock where that can reverse pretty quickly, and all of a sudden, whoa, Musk doesn't know what he's doing. He can't run a company. And you get this accumulation of bad news now. That's bad for short sellers, because now you're hearing this, and the fundamentals don't look great, but the bad news is very bad. Maybe a great time to short. It seems like you've got a stock where it's exuberant on the way up, and it's exuberant with bad news on the way down. It's hard to short that correctly, wouldn't you say?
I guess my read on it is a little different. I will agree with you that sort of the sentiment is starting to turn. But my view is that's when it's like Wile E. Coyote goes off the cliff, and there's a moment there where his legs are spinning, and he's falling, right? And I think we're at that moment where, so I'm surprised the stocks hasn't taken a much bigger hit on this. I mean, how does a company have a market cap, of GM when the fundamentals, it's not consistent with a growth
believers.
story to have a 31% sequential sales decline, and there's no indication that, it was just a hiccup or a one-term thing. That's why I say I think it's what we're seeing here is the beginning of the end.
That's the cult, the believers.
We have seen Musk manage himself to turn things around, though, at various other points in the life cycle of the company. There have been predictions of the company's demise or running out of cash before.
Yeah, and I really credit Musk and his team have pulled one rabbit out of the hat and have staved off. They've been in crisis before. I think their string of luck is finally running out here.
So approximately 3 years ago, this Tesla short seller was saying that the company, they've executed well, they've inspired the industry, they've forced the industry to transition to EVs, but the competition is coming, and he believed that the stock was headed to about $100 per share. That's pre-split. That would be $20 per share split adjusted by the end of 2019. How well did these comments age? Well, by the end of 2019, Tesla stock up about 60% from the time those comments aired. That being said, it did actually fall pretty substantially, down close to 25% by August, then heading to the moon. One of the funniest comments, of course, was the comparison, Tesla's worth the same as GM. How does this make sense? Well, one of those companies is going bankrupt, and it ain't Tesla. And that brings us to today. An email sent out by Whitney Tilson, the Tesla short seller, to his clients included a tweet from James Stevenson pointing out that Tesla's performance over the last few years is, quote, very impressive. You can see here Tesla's trailing 12-month gross profit, trailing 12-month adjusted EBITDA, non-GAAP earnings, and GAAP earnings. And what's particularly interesting here is a follow-up comment. Quote, I was in Seattle yesterday and today, and my cousin, who owns a Model 3, took me for a ride. He's owned it for 2 to 3 years, and, like every other Tesla owner I've ever met, loves it more than life itself. Now, let's just take a moment here, okay? Imagine that on and off you've been short Tesla stock over the last few years. You thought the company was going bankrupt, they're going bust, the stock was worthless, blah, blah, blah. You've been proven wrong. They start printing insane amounts of money. The so-called competition that you said publicly 3 years ago on air was coming for Tesla hasn't done shit. You hang out with your cousin, who can't help but force you to take a ride in his Model 3, which he's had for 2 to 3 years because he's so obsessed he won't shut the fuck up about it, and he, like literally every other Tesla owner you've ever met, loves it more than life itself. He goes on, quote, "Coincidentally, while we were waiting for it to charge at a supercharger in Bellevue, we walked around a nearby mall that had a Tesla showroom. These cars are pretty sweet." Note the exclamation mark. Whitney sounds excited. "It's possible we'll give our current car, a 2018 Volvo, to our daughter when she goes off to business school this fall and buy a new one for ourselves, in which case I'll seriously consider a Model Y, the white car in the pics below." Now, as far as I'm aware, Tilson hasn't completely flipped to a raging Tesla bull. But the fact that he's able to take on new evidence, experience a vehicle, go for a test drive, and then decide, you know what, these cars are badass, I might buy one, shows you somebody whose brain still functions, at least partially. This is a good sign, especially for somebody who's been so wrong about Tesla's stock for so long. After Tilson takes delivery of his Model Y, might flip to a Tesla bull. Maybe not. And now with that important setup out of the way, it's time to turn our focus to the latest Tesla bear thesis from none other than everybody's favorite human being, Mark Spiegel. Somebody who admittedly may be suffering from severe mental health issues. I do genuinely mean this, by the way, so I'm not trying to pick on the poor guy, but he does articulate his latest bear thesis around Tesla, and I'm going to take it apart piece by piece. So let's see what you got to say, Mark. Oh, damn. Account suspended. Maybe he's got an alt account. I'm blocked. Okay, well, incognito, here we come. By the way, for those that don't know, there's a TSLAQ block list. It's a gigantic list of people who have opinions that aren't in line with yours that must immediately be blocked because we're a cult. TSLAQ is a cult of mentally deranged people who cannot hear dissenting opinions because their entire worldview might collapse. Then they won't know what to do with themselves. If you don't hate Tesla and if Tesla isn't going bankrupt, what's the point of being alive? So these idiots literally have a block list that's passed around. So anyone who might say something positive about Tesla cannot get in front of their eyes or into their ears. Red flag of the century. If you really believe in your thesis, does it make a lot of sense to block anyone who could potentially challenge it? So here's the latest quarterly update for Standstill Capital. Now, I really do feel for Mark Spiegel, and he does need help. So if anyone watching is a friend of Mark, I'm just kidding, he doesn't have any, but like if anyone knows Mark, please try your best to get some help for the guy. He clearly has some mental illness and some issues that he needs to deal with. Probably some therapy, maybe some medication. Guy's not seeing straight. Just to quickly set the scene, Standstill Capital's performance since inception on June 1st, 2011, over a decade ago, the fund is up a whopping 71.3% net, while the S&P 500 is up a mere 338%, and the Russell 2000 is up over 200%. Since inception, the fund has compounded at 5.2% net annually versus 15% for the S&P 500 and 11.1% for the Russell 2000. In other words, Standstill Capital has lived up to its name since inception. Okay, so here we are. Why does that say toilet boy? That's really rude. I don't know who did that. Anyway, so we're reading some comments from Mark B.S. Spiegel, the man behind Standstill Capital, sharing some thoughts to his investors, all two of them, about the fund's performance and more importantly, Tesla. I want you guys and girls to notice the insane emotional language, the complete and utter lack of logic, and the pungent, blinding bias. Quote, "Elon Musk is a pathological liar." I mean, let's just leave it right there. Those few words sum up how deluded this guy is. He's living in a la-la land where one of the world's most honest and transparent people of all time is seen as a pathological liar, somebody who lies 24/7. In January, Tesla reported results for Q4 2021 and once again proved that it's a truly horrible business. The emotive language here is just, although the company claimed to have generated $2.8 billion in free cash flow for the quarter, I mean, again, let's just take a rest here, okay? Tesla accurately reports generating $2.8 billion in free cash flow, and this unfortunate escaped mental patient can't even accept that Tesla has generated any free cash flow and needs to spin a narrative why this isn't true. The poor guy is just so far gone, it's embarrassing. If you're really curious about the crazy tinfoil hat theories he has about why this $2.8 billion in free cash flow doesn't actually exist, it wasn't real, feel free to pause the video. I'm not going to waste my time. There's some more moronic comparisons between Tesla and the number of vehicles VW and GM are selling. These comparisons have been going since day one. Soon Tesla's going to be at only half Volkswagen, then only 3/4 of Volkswagen's volume, then only 1 times Volkswagen's volume, then only 1.5 times, then they're only at 20 million vehicles per year. At some point, you've got to give up on this. This video will be 4 hours and 20 minutes long if I cover every single point. So I'm going to skip over a few, but I mean, talk about doozy after doozy after doozy. Meanwhile, perhaps the biggest reason Tesla's recently been able to post marginally increasing sequential quarterly deliveries. What does marginally increasing quarterly deliveries actually look like? Well, let's start with Q4 2018. Tesla delivers a total of about 91,000 vehicles. In Q4 of 2021, Tesla delivers a mere 308,000 vehicles. There's nothing marginal about this. The only thing marginal here is Spiegel's grip on reality. So back to the rationale here. The biggest reason Tesla has recently been able to post marginally increasing sequential quarterly deliveries is because competitors' production is at the lowest levels in decades due to massive chip shortages, thereby eliminating a number of Tesla alternatives. It gets better. Yet, Tesla is enjoying record production because Musk, a notorious corner cutter, is apparently willing to either substitute untested, non-auto grade chips for the more durable chips that he can't get, or simply eliminate entire crucial safety systems, such as backup steering and crash avoidance radar. Right, so Tesla Vision gets so good they no longer need radar, Tesla deletes the part, saves them time, money, etc. Toilet Boy here claims that Tesla's cutting corners and removing safety features. The level of delusion to interpret Tesla's ability to get alternative chips to replace, to rewrite firmware and keep producing vehicles while other automakers are sitting there sucking their thumbs because they don't have the skills to actually do this and adapt. The fact that this is being painted as Tesla cutting corners, instead of Tesla having gigantic brains and being incredibly resourceful and adaptable, it's just stunning. The poor guy. Meanwhile, many Tesla bulls sincerely believe that 10 years from now, the company will be twice the size of Volkswagen or Toyota, thereby selling around 21 million cars a year. To illustrate how utterly clueless this is, going from 1.2 million cars a year today to 21 million in 10 years means Tesla would have to add a brand new 500,000 car a year factory with sold out production every single quarter for 10 years. That awkward moment when you don't understand exponential growth. Hey, I can forgive Mark on this. Humans don't intuitively understand this, but it's really worth taking the time instead of using your emotions and your intuition to actually do the numbers. In the earlier part of this decade, Tesla's going to be adding less production capacity every year than toward the end of the decade. This is what exponential growth looks like. I think one of the most important things for people who have brains to do is use them regularly, especially when we can learn from our mistakes. The punchline is just a moment away, so stick with me, guys. Many Tesla bulls sincerely believe that 10 years from now, the company will be twice the size of Volkswagen or Toyota. To illustrate how utterly clueless this is, going from 1.2 million cars, blah, blah, blah. You guys got the point. Let's rewind the clock a few years. Here's a post from Mark Spiegel under the name Logical Thought, the irony is real, back in 2014. Quote, why projections for Tesla to sell 500,000 cars in 2020 are absurd. Spoiler alert, you know how many cars Tesla did sell in 2020? Yep. Mark continues, summary, the sell side is forecasting that Tesla will sell 500,000 cars in 2020, which they did. If Tesla sells 35,000 cars this year, 500,000 sales in 2020 would imply a 6-year compound annual growth rate of 56%. No complex product manufacturer has ever grown that quickly from a revenue base of 3 billion or more. Conclusion, if Tesla were able to grow as quickly as Microsoft did in its prime, an absurd scenario for non-monopolistic, non-software company, it would produce only 186,000 cars in 2020. This is why it makes sense to reason from first principles rather than analogy. We see Mark B.S. Spiegel here making the enormous error almost a decade ago of saying, well, no one else has ever grown that fast, therefore Tesla can't. Fast forward almost a decade, it turns out Tesla did deliver 500,000 vehicles. Clearly Mark's thinking, his logical thought was anything but. This is the point where you might want to revisit things, go, hang on a minute. How did I f*** that up so severely? Oh, I reasoned by analogy. Better not do that again, I might be wrong. Unfortunately, Mark has not yet learned his lesson. We're going to move through things a little bit more quickly now. I could literally spend hours dismantling every brain dead line in this, but I'm not going to go to that level of detail. I'm sure most of you would fall asleep. But a few other things I want to point out. According to Mark's 400 IQ calculations, Tesla has a net present value of approximately $30 per share. Down. He actually believes this. We also see Tesla had a gigantic 116,000 vehicles delivered in China in Q4 versus about 73,000 in Q3. How can Mark spin this into a negative after a colossal increase quarter after quarter? Not only was this, again, a growth rounding error, but much of that gain was almost certainly, again, just tinfoil hat, right? Almost certainly comprised of pull forward sales due to a 30% subsidy cut beginning in January. Like how Tesla sales collapsed when the EV tax credit halved, and then halved again, and then phased out completely. Except they didn't. Meanwhile, Tesla continues to sell its fraudulent and dangerous so-called full self-driving. It gets even better. Have confirmation bias. Seek out ways to confirm your bias. Next minute, you arrive at the Guidehouse Insights list of companies pursuing autonomous vehicles. By the way, this is actually real. In the leadership position, we have Waymo, Nvidia, Algo AI, and Baidu. The contenders, close behind, Zoox, Mobileye, Cruise, Notional, Aurora, Neuro, Yandex, AutoX. The challengers, May Mobility and Gatik. And the followers, dead fucking last, Tesla. I honestly don't think it's possible for anyone to be this wrong, this dumb, this far off the mark. Of course, I'm not suggesting any nefarious motivations, but to me, I cannot conceive of a reality in which anyone thinks that this is an accurate representation of the leaders, the contenders, the challengers, and the followers in terms of autonomy. Spiegel also goes on to trash Tesla, saying they've got no proprietary battery technology whatsoever. Of course, let's ignore the evidence, like the fact that with the same size battery pack, a Tesla vehicle will get far more range than anything else on the market. Let's ignore that. Yeah, you've got no proprietary battery technology at all, obviously. Good point, Mark. Mark goes on to cite Conjob Reports, who clearly have an anti-Tesla bias. Mark then has some insights about Tesla's so-called competition, which he's been discussing now for the better part of a decade. It's yet to arrive. And then takes a dump on the Cybertruck, which obviously no one's interested in, despite the million-plus pre-orders. As we continue to plunge further off the deep end, a couple of final points. This an absolute classic. Quote, in other words, when it comes to the safety of customers and innocent bystanders, Tesla is truly one of the most vile companies on earth. Does anyone note the incredibly emotive language there? Calling Tesla one of the most vile companies on earth. And lastly, some 420 IQ shit right here. So here's Tesla's competition in cars, with links to a bunch of vehicles that either exist or might in the future potentially exist if the computer renderings actually turn into high production vehicles that are either currently not available for consumers to purchase, or they are available but consumers don't want to buy them and they're buying Teslas instead. Imagine having such a gigantic list of competition that wasn't making a meaningful impact on Tesla sales. I think there's a valuable lesson here today. I genuinely feel bad for Mark Spiegel. The guy's clearly, obviously suffering from severe mental illness. And again, I'm not saying this jokingly, I genuinely mean it. Something's wrong, the guy needs help. I almost feel like there should be some kind of license people need before they can invest in stocks, just to make sure that they're not suffering from delusions, mental illness, crippling self-hatred, or anything else that might cause them to repeatedly make major errors and lose colossal amounts of money. Many years ago, some of the points that TSLAQ had, some of the Tesla bears and short sellers were valid. Or what if the company can't raise capital, they'll need to, blah, blah, blah. But Tesla is long since past that point, and they've proven the doubters, the haters, the short sellers and the bears wrong at every juncture. So at this point in time, it's genuinely difficult to understand how anyone could still be currently short Tesla stock and bearish on the company, unless of course they are suffering from some form of mental illness or severe brain damage. The question is, what can we do? How do you get through to these people? How do you help them? It's almost a prolonged form of self-harm. I think the lessons we can take away from this include: 1, it's important to think. 2, it's important to be open to and entertain other perspectives, other ideas. Having a block list of anyone who might say anything at all to do with Tesla that doesn't conform to your worldview, as the TSLAQ dum-dums do, probably not the best strategy. If you confidently claim back in 2014 for the internet to see, remember the internet never forgets, that it's impossible, there's no way Tesla would reach their goal of 500,000 vehicles in 2020 because that's impossible, no one's ever grown that fast, then it turns out they actually reached that goal. Maybe you think to yourself, that didn't work out. What did I do? What was the error in my reasoning here, my logical thought? How can I not make that same mistake again? Unfortunately, it seems like some people are unable or unwilling to learn that lesson. Mark Spiegel is the ultimate example of confirmation bias, reasoning by analogy, and allowing your emotions to cloud your reason and judgment. So in closing, I think Mark Spiegel is a great example of what not to do and how not to invest. And just finally, don't forget to sign up to Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. You'll instantly gain access to over 100 exclusive Q&A videos, plus my Tesla stock price targets out over the next decade in the bear case, base case, bull case, and now the hyper bull case as well, plus loads of other content and perks. So I'll see you over there. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.